So this has been 20 years of guiding bear viewing trips for me, and really I got into it because I wanted to spend more time in places like this, the wild places. It was taking people out to share these experiences so that somebody who's coming from a city somewhere could experience what I did when I came to this place for the first time.
We're coming into Bristol Bay here, and we've got some fog, so we're going to see what we can get underneath it and land on the beach, or if we're going to wait this out somewhere else.
As we're looking out the window here, off to our right, we're looking up into Lake Clark National Park, and Bristol Bay is the southern boundary of Lake Clark National Park itself. So everything north of us is parkland, which would be out this window. Everything out that way, until you get down to McNeill River State Game Sanctuary and Katmai Preserve, is kind of a mishmash of native lands and state lands. And so all of this is part of one giant complex that makes up the best bear habitat in the world. In a lot of ways for me, this feels like coming home. This is the first place I spent any significant amount of time watching brown bears.
So, we're going to be out here for a while looking at bears. We're going to be traveling in groups. We're going to be moving slow and steady, no running, obviously. And then we're making noise. We're not trying to hide from these bears. Like, we are full disclosure at all times so that they can see us, ascertain our intentions, and then they can act appropriately. Here we go. The most stressful part of any bear viewing, camping extravaganza is testing the fence. So we're grounded. Again, professional. Don't try this at home. There it goes. It works. Yeah. Whoo! We don't need coffee. Yep, that is a fully functioning electric fence. Let's go look for some bears, shall we? So this is a classic bear marking tree. This is the same marking tree that the bears were marking themselves on 20 years ago when I was first out here. The sap here has been matted with bear hair over the years. If you can just pull it off here, it's all kind of congealed in there. But bears will leave basically their calling card on trees like this, so they know who's in the area. And the bigger, more dominant bears are trying to get their scent as high up on the tree as they can. And you can see I can barely reach it standing on my tippy toes here, but to do that damage all the way up, a bear bit that with its teeth and ripped it out, so it pulled further up. But that means the bear's mouth had to be that high. So that's a big old bear right there. We've been up here all of 30 seconds, and just with a quick glance, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 bears we can pick up just with our naked eye. And the most bears I've seen spread out in this meadow at one time is somewhere above 50. And you look out and it almost looks like a herd of cattle. A meadow like this is just an example of the seasonal abundance of the Alaska Peninsula. This is going to be the first good nutritional source they have in the spring when they come out, and this is where they'll congregate, and a lot of mating will happen out in this meadow here. But there's not enough nutrition here to support this many bears over the course of the whole summer. So these bears have to move to other seasonal abundances. Like, some of them will probably cross over the mountains, go to Bristol Bay. Some of them will head down to the south. They might go down towards McNeill River, places like that. Some of them might go up north. They all have these different paths that they'll take in order to utilize these different resources that flare up over the course of the summer on the peninsula here. So when we talked about being predictable to these bears, what these bears want us to be is a small footprint, so they want us close together. we want to be non-impactful. So we want to kind of stay low, and we'll read the situation. Every situation is different, so you have to be able to adapt. But by making her comfortable, it's going to encourage her to be able to utilize the habitat that's right in front of us. And so she can come up. That's how you get good images, is you make the bear comfortable to the point that it doesn't care you're there, and they'll walk right by like you're not even there. You know, I know bears that have gone 40, 50, 60 miles cross country to utilize different food sources. There's been evidence of bears going up to 100 miles straight line. So when you talk about putting roads and industrial corridors right through the middle of bear habitat, there's no way you're not going to fragment that habitat and prevent bears from moving like they traditionally have across this landscape. So 50 years ago, the concept of bear viewing didn't even exist. And 50 years ago, this park didn't exist. And so by preserving this habitat and having the Alaska Peninsula preserved as this wilderness, it's really opened things up economically. So we're now to the point where the bear viewing industry in Alaska, which is a homegrown business, generates about $40 million a year for the local economy in South Central Alaska. Generates about 500 jobs. And these are jobs that pay mortgages. These are jobs that put food on the table. 76% of that money stays in South Central Alaska. So this is an important part of our diversified tourist economy here. Bears on the Alaska Peninsula are getting pinched right now. They've got this intact habitat that they've had for so long, but now you've got development coming in. You've got Pebble wanting to put roads. You've got Johnson Tract wanting to put a mine right over that hill over there. You've got oil and gas development all up and down Cook Inlet. And so these places that are wild are becoming less wild every day. And there's no attention paid to the cumulative effects that their industrial processes would have on a landscape like this. Pebble's footprint would go all the way from the other side of Lake Iliamna over to the Kenai Peninsula. So it would mean the open pit mine, it would mean the road corridor, power plants, shipping facility, natural gas pipelines, slurry lines. I mean, Army Corps, when they were doing their studies, they did not look at their impacts to bears more than 3 miles out from the impacted areas. So you could put a port right there, and they're saying they don't even need to look at the cumulative impacts that it would have on bear populations like this. These are the bear populations on which we depend for our bear viewing industry. It's opening up this place to a scale of development that is just incompatible with the wilderness we already have. And it's the wilderness that makes this place so special. And it's the wilderness that is providing income to people like me. Pebble says they can coexist with the fisheries and the industries that already exist out here, but the science has already showed us that that's not possible. The mine they're advocating for now has already been ruled by the Environmental Protection Agency as being incompatible with the fisheries on the other side of these mountains here. So the people that would be most impacted by this mining project have no faith in the permitting system, and this is what would be at stake. If you care about bears, or you care about all the things that are in this ecosystem, by protecting habitat for bears, you are protecting habitat for everything else. If you want to see wilderness like this preserved, the time to take action is now. We need you to write to your congresspeople. We need you to call your congresspeople. We need to let your congresspeople know that this wilderness is worth fighting for, and just say no to Pebble Mine.